What is up, Snarf Goblins? It's your boy. And if you don't know this, I am a huge Binding of Isaac fan. And I'm trying to get my first Dead God file right now, literally. Right now, I got all my completion marks on Azazel and the Forgotten so far, but I got a lot on the other characters. I'm just switching between them so it doesn't get stale. But today, I'm going to be doing a tier list. I have another comic book video in the works, but I'm just going to do this for fun while I'm getting that one ready because I love the Binding of Isaac. Just wanted to do a video real quick. And I also have some hot takes on the characters. This is Editor Snarf right here. I forgot to mention this, but this is a tier list about how fun the characters are, not how good they are, because there's really no debating that in the Isaac community at this point and how good characters are. Start off with our very first character, Isaac. He starts with the D6. Oh, by the way, I'm not going to hyper explain every character because they have little tiny things that don't change that much between them, but I'll explain the gist of the character. So Isaac starts with 3 health, any of the D6, and he has pretty much average stats or whatever. I'm gonna be honest, rigging the game makes it super boring in my opinion, and the D6 with no downside makes him an inherently good character, which I actually don't like. So because of that, I'm gonna just put him in decent. Alright, my opinion on Maggie and Cain got lost to the Shadow Realm for some reason. So let me just give it to you real quick. Maggie is kind of fun, because you can play like Sack Room and Devil Rooms more easily, but she's just not that fun overall. So she's going in like whatever tier I put her in. And Cain is fine, but he's very milquetoast, so I also find him pretty boring. Next up, we have Judas, which, in my opinion, is a more fun version of Cain because he has higher damage, but his downside makes him a lot more fun to play because he only starts out with 1 heart. So he has the Book of Belial. It gives you a damage up for... It gives you much more damage for a single room. It's an active item, has 3 charges. He starts out with 1 health. He starts out with 1 heart, but he also starts out with higher damage. And because the downside is such a detriment, especially if you're playing on hard mode, I feel like he's a much more challenging character, and starting around with Judas isn't just an instant win like it is with Cain and Isaac. So I think that makes him a lot more fun. So Judas is going to the very good tier. Next up, we have Blue Baby, and this might be a controversial take, but he is one of my favorite characters since they updated him in Repentance and gave him the whole blue fly for every poop you destroy thing. Okay, so if you don't know how Blue Baby works, basically he can only have blue hearts, soul hearts, black hearts, whatever. He can't have red hearts. But what that means is, if you get health HP up, he only gets blue hearts, and red hearts basically are useless to you. I feel like that adds a fun bit of challenge to the character, especially since you can still find uses for the red hearts depending on what items you have. With different cards, you can find uses for red hearts, or if you find the dark bum. But that's not really what makes him fun. What really makes him fun is the fly thing. If the fly thing wasn't added, he would probably be bottom tier, but because he is, and he also starts with the poop, which just spawns 1 poop, and it's a 1 charge active item, you can do a lot of strategizing with him that's super fun. What I like to do with Blue Baby is, normally, whenever I get the poop, I will charges, I'll use them all in 1 room, wait till I clear the floor except the boss room, I'll destroy all of them for the boss and just melt him. It's super fun. And you can also do other stuff to sort of synergize with it. A lot of the poop items are a lot more useful for Blue Baby. And because he provides a fun challenge, I'm going to put him in the great tier for how fun that he is. I pick him all the time. Next up, we have Eve. And honestly, she's a really boring character in my opinion. She has a dead bird item, which it's basically a familiar that targets enemies and attacks them whenever you take damage for a room, and then it goes away and comes out next time you take damage for a different room. And she has the Whore Babylon, which when you're at 1 red heart or lower, and it's just your red health. If you have soul hearts, that doesn't affect it. Then you get a massive damage up, and she also has an active item called the Razor, which you can choose an infinite amount of times, which takes away a half heart and gives you more damage for the room. She can be pretty powerful, but she's just so boring early game. Characters that start with like too little momentum in the early game are just super hard, and characters that start with too much momentum in the early game are just boring. Like, you need to kind of find a good balance with it. And to me, I feel like Eve isn't a super good balance. She's okay. I feel like she's trying to be too many things at once. I kind of did a bad job of explaining this in this clip, but basically what I meant is that she is a red heart character, but she's trying to not be a red heart character, because in order to get Whore Babylon to proc, you need to have one red heart. So what most people do is they go for devil deals in order to get rid of the red health. But the thing is if you don't have a soul heart by the time the end of the second floor happens, or if you get a really shitty devil deal, which is entirely possible because there are a lot of shitty ones, then you're basically forced to go for angel rooms, which, what's even the point of playing this character at that point? And not getting a soul heart by the time you finish the second floor is completely possible. So you're basically just starting out with a neutered run, which is, it's whatever. I mean, you could always just raise your health way later on when you get blue hearts, but it's still stupid. That being said, she goes in the bad tier. Next up, we have Samson, and this is basically just a noob character. He gets more damage the more damage he takes. He starts out with 3 hearts. Oh, I forgot to mention Eve starts out with 2 hearts. Oh, Blue Baby starts out with 3 soul hearts, but just forgot to mention their health. But basically, I find him really boring because I don't get hit that much because I'm not a new player, especially on the earlier floors. And by the time I get to the harder floors where I do get hit more often, I usually have enough items to where the extra damage doesn't make that big of a difference. It's still useful if you're having a shit run, but in my opinion, he's just a very milquetoast, boring character to play, even more than Isaac. I think that even Eve is more fun than him, so he's gonna go below Eve in the bad section in terms of how fun he is. Alright, next up we have Azazel. Here's another noob character, except the difference is that Azazel doesn't start out with any red hearts. He starts out with 3 black hearts, so that's basically his downside. Azazel, instead of shooting tears like the rest of the characters, shoots a short-range Brimstone Blast, which does hella damage. And it's kind of a free win unless you just skill issue or you don't get like any health ups. Then it kind of sucks, but honestly, he's by far the easiest character in this game to play. He does keep you on your toes a bit more than Samson though, because of how much closer you have to get to the enemies to attack them because you have such short range. And because of that, I think it makes him more fun, even though he's easier. The kind of easy that he is still fun, even though he's super easy. He was my very first character to get all completion marks on, and I wasn't even going for completion marks back when I did, so that should tell you how easy Azazel is. But that being said, he is really fun, because having Brimstone at the start of the game is still really fun, and this is about how fun characters are, not how easy or not easy they are, even though that's kind of how I've been rating them, because that's how I personally find characters fun. But Azazel is a special exception to that, and because of that, I will put him below Judas in the very good tier. I also find it kind of funny and ironic that one of the characters in this game that's a literal devil is more encouraged to go for angel rooms because he doesn't have any red health to start with, which is kind of funny. Next up, we have Lazarus, and he's okay. Back in Rebirth, he was my least favorite character by far. But now that they updated him to where you get an extra health per floor, let me explain how Lazarus works first. Keep forgetting to do that. Basically, Lazarus, he starts out with 3 red health, -1 luck, which always sucks. That's like my least favorite thing about his character. But he also gets a free extra life per floor. When you die, you respawn with full health, but it takes away 1 max heart, but it also gives you a damage up. So this can be really useful for taking devil deals that would normally kill you, stuff like that. I personally think he's an alright character. He has a fun playstyle around him, but the low luck he starts out with, see, luck is like a snowball in this game rolling down a mountain, but the mountain's steepness and the amount of snow on it is kind of how much the luck is. So if most of the snow is melted and the slope isn't that steep, it's kind of hard to gain any momentum with Lazarus. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. And because of that, I rarely break the game while playing him, and he's not super fun. Like, don't get me wrong, he's a consistent character because you can always get damaged up by dying. You can always play devil deals, but in terms of how fun he is, he's not really that fun in my opinion. I think he's more fun than Kain though, just because his playstyle is a bit harder and requires a bit more thinking. So I'm gonna put him above Kain in the good section. All right, next up we have Eden. To be honest, if I had to pick like one of my top 3 least favorite characters, Eden would probably be like my 3rd least favorite. Because maybe it's just because I have bad luck, but it seems like every single time I start an Eden run, I always get really shitty items, and I always start out with like really low health and really shitty stats. So, I mean, okay, if you don't know how Eden works, she gets a randomized amount of health, stats, and she starts out with 2 items. 2 random items, any pool, which is fine. It's just I never get any good items while playing her. And honestly, the fact that you have to beat Mom's heart in order to keep playing her is really stupid. I feel like if you should just be able to unlock her once and then play her as many times as you want. Obviously, now that I'm a late gamer, I have, like, obviously since I've been playing the game for a while and she's not one of my favorite characters, I have racked up a lot of Eden tokens in the hundreds. But I still don't think she's the most fun. Like, yes, you can get really strong items at the beginning, but like I said, it just trivializes the run at the same time. The chances of you getting a balanced run at the start to where it's still challenging and fun is pretty low. Because of that, and just because the chance, I just don't like the chance gimmick of this character. I'm gonna put her into the really bad tier because she's just not fun in my opinion. Next up, we have The Lost. So, if you don't know how The Lost works, basically, he dies in 1 hit, but he starts out with the Holy Mantle. It's basically 1 hit that recharges per every room you go into. You don't have to complete it like an active item. You just have to go into the room, you get an extra hit. So, if you get hit, you're going to die the next hit in the room. Once you leave the room, you have an extra hit again. So you don't have to wait to find pickups of hearts like other characters. And also, he can take free devil deals, which is pretty awesome. So, he also starts out being able to fly in spectral tiers, which means you can get a lot more items that are hidden behind rocks and stuff with the Lost. And you can also shoot through objects, which is really useful if you want to float inside of them so that contact damage enemies can't hit you. So that's pretty useful. In my opinion, the Lost is one of the most fun characters in the game because the challenge he provides with having no health, and you can't get any health either. Like, the health items just don't do anything for him. I think it provides a really fun challenge, and the upsides that he has also, like, I feel like they pay off the downside, you know what I mean? So, he is going to be the very first character that I put in the amazing tier, because he is really fun in my opinion. There's another character that's really similar to the Lost that I'm going to get to later, because I really like him, but we'll wait on that for now. Next character we have is Lilith. She starts out with 1 red heart and 2 black hearts, and what she does is she isn't able to fire tears, but she starts out with an incubus, and that basically follows her around and shoots for her. It's a familiar, so it's a little bit harder to aim stuff. And she also starts out with an active item called Box of Friends, which doubles the amount of familiars that she has. And she also starts out with an item called Cambion Conception, which gives her a chance to get an extra demonic familiar forever, every time she gets hit, out of like a small pool of familiars. Honestly, I think she's pretty fun, but I don't really like her gimmick that much of having the familiar. Like, I don't think it's a bad gimmick or anything, but it's just the extra challenge it provides just doesn't really feel like a fun challenge. It's just kind of there, and the buffs that she has are really good. So, like, she's an alright character. I think that personally, I'll put her at the bottom of the very good tier because she's still one of the most fun, but she's still Lilith, you know what I mean? Like, she's never going to be top tier or anything, even though she's on paper really good. I mean, if you played this game, you know how middle of the road this character can be in terms of how fun she is. With Lilith, you either basically have the most broken run ever, or just a regular run, but you can't shoot from your face anymore. So, yeah. I mean, the game break potential for her is high with Cambion Conception and her ability to double her damage output with Box of Friends. But, I mean, like, the whole shooting from the familiar thing just isn't fun in my opinion, so the buffs kind of make up for that and make her more fun. That's why she's going in very good. Okay, for some reason, my thoughts on the Keeper also got banished to the Shadow Realm. I don't know why my phone's just deleting these videos for no reason, but if I remember correctly, I thought he was pretty fun because you can get a lot of items from the shop, but overall I thought he was just kind of mid, so this is where I put him. Next up, we have my boy Apollyon. Honestly, he is like, he would be a character that I like more if he started out with a little bit more damage. Because, see, Apollyon is what Isaac should have been, in my opinion, in terms of his downside. He should have lower max health or stuff. Like, if Isaac started out with 2 max health, he'd probably be one of my favorites. But because he just starts out too good, it's boring to me. Apollyon starts out with 2 health, 2 red hearts. And he has an item called the Void, I think it is. And basically what the Void does is, if you see an item you don't like, you can just consume it into the Void and it'll give you a random stat up, which is pretty nice. Or if it's an active item, since the Void is an active item, you can take it, you can absorb it into the Void and it won't give you a stat up, but every time you use the Void, it'll use the active item's ability, which can be good, but most of the time it's pretty irrelevant and it's more of a debuff than anything. I'd rather just have this, I'd rather just have the stat up most of the time. And this character's pretty crippled early game. Like, I find myself dying on the first few floors with this character more than any, especially if I'm just having an unlucky run, because his item doesn't save an unlucky run by giving you stat ups, because the stat ups aren't that good. It more like just slightly softens the blow of a bad run, because the stats you're getting are still like not that amazing or anything, and you still only have 2 health to start out with, so he's fine. But I think that he's like overall a pretty bad character. He does look really cool, like aesthetically, so I like playing as him because he looks cool, but in terms of actually playing as him, not so much. I think he's more fun than Eve, personally, but he still kind of sucks, so I'm putting him at the top of the bad tier. Next up, we have the Forgotten. Back when I was a young chap and I first got into this game, the Forgotten was by far my favorite character, and I played him in like every single run. Don't get me wrong, this man is really fun until you get to late game, because you can't really get up close to any of the bosses, and then you're basically just forced to play the game regularly as the spirit aspect part of him, which kind of takes away from his whole gimmick and kind of makes it not really worth. So basically what the Forgotten does is he starts out with 2 bone hearts, 2 full bone hearts. So if you don't know what those are, think of a heart canister, like an empty heart canister. So if your character has 3 max health and they lose 1 heart, they'll have that empty heart space that you can fill back up. Basically, imagine if that empty heart space was an extra hit, and once it got hit, you lost it. That's basically what bone hearts are. So he starts out with like 6 hits, unless you get hit by a champion enemy or something, in which case it's 4 hits. Which is nice, but he also starts out with he also has a soul counterpart, which you can click a button to switch to, which makes his max health 5 for each half of him, technically. Because the soul, anytime you get a soul heart, it goes to the soul. Anytime you get regular at max health, it goes to the Forgotten himself. Depending on who you pick it up with, usually I just give the max health to the Forgotten, unless like he's already full or something, which does provide a little bit of management. Personally, though, I think he would be a little bit more fun if he didn't have the soul, because I feel like the soul makes him too good, because he basically, so the soul aspect of the Forgotten basically works like this. You click a button, you switch to him, you're basically playing as the Lost but with soul hearts, which is good. It's also chained to the Forgotten, so you can't get too far away without it like tugging you back. So it does have its limits, but you basically just get to fly around, have spectral. You can even shoot through the Forgotten, which can block like projectiles and stuff, so it trivializes certain boss fights. Like I was saying, it pretty much trivializes the run. You do have to get up close like Azazel to do damage, but you can always have the option to pussy out and turn into the soul, which I feel like makes this character a little bit less fun. I think it'd be more challenging if you just had to play as the Forgotten the whole time, especially for boss fights like Delirium, it force you to like use your ranged bone throwing attack more, stuff like that. Because, you know, for stuff fights like It Lives, you literally just spawn the Forgotten in, hide behind him as the soul, and you win. That's it. For fights like Delirium, you can do that too, unless you get telefragged, you pretty much just win instantly. Stuff like that. It is a little bit annoying. I would say that Hush is similar too, but I don't remember the name of the item, but basically when tears teleport from one wall to the next when they go through them, when he has that move does kind of screw you over regardless, but I don't know. I used to play the Forgotten all the time, but he's a little bit more boring for me now. He is really easy on the earlier floors. He gets kind of worse on the later floors, similar to Azazel in that aspect. He is still really fun, but I do think those few things bring him down. Because of that, I'm going to just put him at the top of very good. Actually, no. I can't put the Forgotten... Actually, no, because I play Blue Baby more than I play the Forgotten nowadays, low-key. He's just going to go... He's going to go below Blue Baby being great, because he's still a great character, and he has a lot of fun gimmicks with his whole melee thing, being one of the only melee characters in the game, but I just don't think that he's implemented super well. They were trying to do too many things with this character, and I think they buffed him too much to where he's not as fun as he could have been. But because of that, he goes at the bottom of the great tier. Next up, we have Bethany, and believe it or not, I think this character's buff is balanced, because no soul hearts, which means if you get hit once, no devil room for you, which oftentimes can make your run mid instead of game breaking. And I don't think it's a super fun gimmick, but she can be pretty fun. She's not usually one of my first picks to play, but I will say she's pretty fun, so because of that, I'm going to put her at the top of good tier. Let me explain how she works first. She has 3 red hearts, but she can't have soul hearts. Any soul hearts she picks up go into charges for her active item called the Book of Virtues. What the Book of Virtues does is it spawns a wisp that orbits around you and it shoots tears and it blocks projectiles. Wisps can be destroyed though if they take too much damage via contact or blocking too many projectiles. So it's not super OP or anything. Also, other active items can be placed on top of the Book of Virtues, and then that item's amount of charges become the Book of Virtues' new amount of charges, and you can use that active item and it gives you a wisp specific to that active item. That sounds a little confusing, but basically you get to have an active item and then the Book of Virtues gives you a bonus anytime you use it. So to simplify it a little bit. Normally though, the extra charges is not worth having the soul hearts though. If I had the option, I'd always pick the soul heart unless I had something like Guppy's Head or something. Normally, I would just pick the soul hearts because, like, what is even the point? But I don't think that her gimmick's super fun. It's fun enough though. Like, she's still a fun character to play. You usually get a good run with her if you can get a devil deal or if you can get an angel deal. But if you can't, she basically sucks. Kind of. Like, you still start with a good item. It's kind of on the same vein as Apollyon, because the item's like alright, but like the downside of the characters just kind of suck. But it's just a way more fun version of it, basically. So, top of good tier for her. Alright, next up we have Jacob and Esau. Obviously I don't really like this character, because nobody does. Basically what Jacob and Esau does is Jacob and Esau are 2 characters you play at once. Like anytime you move the thumbstick, they both move. And Jacob starts out with 3 red hearts. Esau starts out with, I think, 1 red heart and 1 soul heart. They both have stats that basically like go against each other. Like Jacob has higher shot speed, Esau has higher range, Jacob has low range, Jacob has Esau has lower shot speed, stuff like that. If you go to the alt floors, you can get double items then, which is alright. If you hold down a button, you can move Jacob freely while Esau stands still, which can be useful sometimes, but it's really annoying to play this character whenever you're fighting some of the later bosses, because you just can't weave through certain shit, like, at all, which is really annoying. But I wouldn't say that he's the worst character ever. He's definitely not the least fun, in my opinion. Like, he's more fun than Apollyon, Eve, and Samson, in my opinion. And Isaac. I think he's more fun than Isaac, because I think the challenge he provides is more fun than, like, boring-ass, milquetoast, like, easy game break, no skill Isaac. But I think he's actually more fun than Maggie too, personally, because he does provide more of a challenge than Maggie. Actually, no.
No, he's not more fun than Maggie, but he's not the worst character, like, in my opinion, in terms of how fun he is. So he's gonna go in the middle of decent. A thing that sucks, though, is, you know, you only get to really buff one character, or if you want to split your items up, it usually never really works that much. You get to have 2 active items, which can be pretty OP, but it's just overall a huge disadvantage playing as this character. And I like challenge characters, obviously, because, you know, Blue Baby and the Lost are at the top of the tier list, but this is just not a fun challenge character, in my opinion. Especially if, you know, either Jacob or Esau, one of them has really high health and one of them doesn't, and then the low health one dies. Because I forgot to mention, if one of them dies, they both die. So you're kind of screwed if that happens. But yeah, he's going in the middle of decent. Alright, now we're getting to the tainted characters. And let me just say, my opinions on the tainted characters vary very rapidly. My favorite character is a tainted character, and my least favorite characters are tainted characters. First, let me get to like one of my absolute least favorite tainted characters, and one of my least favorite characters in this entire game, Tainted Isaac. Basically, what Tainted Isaac does is he can only hold 8 items at a time, and each item that you encounter flashes between 2 items, and you can choose the better out of the 2 you want to pick out. So it's similar to Isaac because it kind of has like a reroll, like pick what you want, but the debuff is just so ass. Like, you're basically taking all the fun synergies out of this game because, in my opinion, in my personal honest opinion, Tainted Isaac takes everything that's fun about playing Bind of Isaac out of the game. So because of that, like, I wouldn't say he takes everything fun out of the game, he just neuters it. He makes the game like so limiting and not fun anymore. He just sucks. He's not fun to play at all, in my opinion. I've played him a couple times and I've had fun, but like not nearly as much fun as I would have had as any other character, because I've had to give up so many items and it just sucks. Like, he's just not very fun to play. So because of that, he's going to be our very first horrible tier in terms of how fun he is. Next up, we have Tainted Magdalene. Basically, she's a pretty unique in the way she works. She starts out with 4 hearts, just like the regular Magdalene, but the first 2 hearts are regular, and any subsequent heart that she has after that fades and drains slowly over time. And by running into an enemy and like hitting them and taking damage, she also does a melee attack automatically. And if she kills an enemy, they drop a half a heart that fades away really fast, so you kind of have to rush around and pick them up. Kind of like Tainted Keeper, but way less fun, because she starts out with absolutely atrocious garbage stats, which usually makes your late game bad too if you don't find a bunch of stat ups on your run, which is something that can happen. It's not super uncommon either. And using her melee attack against bosses is basically a death sentence for the later bosses, because her melee attack does good damage against regular enemies, but not really enough damage to kill any boss easily. You're usually just going to be losing out on health. Luckily, using the Faded Hearts doesn't take away from your Devil or Angel Room chance, so that's an upside at least, but she's just not that fun of a character. She's so weak, she just kind of sucks. Killing enemies with your tears does have a chance to drop a half a heart, by the way, just in case you're really low on your regular hearts, not your drained ones, but she's just not super fun, just because of how weak she is late game. Like, certain characters are stronger early game and weaker later game, like the Forgotten or Azazel, and some characters are weaker early game and stronger late game, like most of the characters in this game. But Magdalene's just kind of weak the whole game. Like, even if you have a good run, like, no matter what, it would have been better with a different character. She just kind of sucks. Because of that, I'm going to put her below Eden in the really bad tier, because I think she's just not fun. She's technically a melee character, and I do like melee characters in this game, but she's basically the worst version of a melee character, so bleh. Next up, we have my least favorite character in the game, which is Tainted Cain. I don't know if you know me personally, you know I don't have great memory, and Tainted Cain is basically just... Okay, let me explain how he works. With Tainted Cain, you can't pick up any items. Any item you try to pick up will just explode into pickups, which really sucks if you find something like Godhead or Brimstone or whatever on your run. But he also has an item called the Bag of Crafting, which you can put pickups in, and every single item in the game has a different recipe of different pickups you can do to make it. So you can either put them in your bag of crafting, because it has 8 slots in it, and you can fill them up with different pickups like bombs, keys, coins, nickels, soul hearts, whatever, in order to, you know, try to get a good item. And if you put rare pickups in there, you get better items like eternal hearts, bone hearts, rotten hearts, golden bombs, golden keys, whatever. But he's just basically the min-max character, and min-maxing's only fun like whenever you run into min-maxing and a chance to min-max really hard and you're like, oh dang, let's go. But with Kain, it's like, ugh, I have to use my brain non-stop this game. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Which, he's just so boring. Like, I think this is one of the only characters I don't have a completion mark on, because he's just so boring to play. He's probably going to be the last character I get full completion marks on, unless I'm just getting fucked while playing Tainted Lost or something, and I get tired and decide to try to go for him instead. But he is by far the most boring character in this game. Like, I could not think of a more boring character to play. It honestly sucks that this character even exists, because I do want to unlock all the items by getting all the completion marks, and I'm gonna have to get all the completion marks as this character to do that, and he's just so boring. But that's whatever. He goes at the bottom of horrible because he's extremely boring. The same thing I said about Tainted Isaac basically applies to Kain, but 10 times as much. It neuters the gameplay experience because it just grinds you to a halt, constantly leaving your pickups all over the floors and trying to run around to see if you can find some to get a specific recipe. And if you have your Binding of Isaac app downloaded where you can look up recipes for shit, then you're constantly having to look stuff up because you don't remember shit, and it sucks. It sucks ass. Never play this character unless you're trying to get completion marks. Some people like him, but I think those people are either like, they have OCD or they're insane, because God, is this character boring. Next up, we have Dark Judas. How Dark Judas works, he can't have red hearts, just like Blue Baby, and he starts out with 2 black hearts, so that's pretty good. He starts out with, I think, just regular stats, if I remember correctly, but he also starts out with an item called Dark Arts. It's an active item, but it goes into a different slot than your regular active items, so you can still have active items and keep this. This is like a pseudo-active item, is what I'll call these. Basically, the left hand is where you keep this if you keep all the other active items in your right hand. It doesn't work as the same as the backpack. Like, you can't have 2 active items at once and switch this out. You have this for the whole game. And what it does is it recharges over like 12, 15 seconds or something, and when you press it, Judas becomes invisible for a short time, but he can't shoot, and when you run into enemies, they basically get cut through, and the effect lasts for a few seconds. He gets a speed boost, you run through enemies and cut through them, and then once he pops back out, depending on how many enemies you killed, I'm pretty sure he gets a damage up, so he can be pretty fun. Something I don't like about Judas, though, is he just breaks the game really easily. Playing Dark Judas is another instant win. Not being able to have red hearts is a downside, but, I mean, he's just too good. This is basically playing Blue Baby on easy mode, like little baby toddler mode, which is, don't get me wrong, using Dark Arts is still fun, getting massive combos and stuff, but he's just alright, you know? Not something like super OP in like a super fun way that's balanced. He's just OP. If like there was a baseline for like balanced, he'd go to the above it. He'd be like good tier. So I think he's more fun than Azazel, but less fun than Judas, so he's gonna go in the middle of very good. Next up, we have Tainted Blue Baby, which either you love him or you hate him in the Binding of Isaac community. Well, not necessarily you love him, you hate him. You love him or you just don't really care about him. So, me personally, I think he's alright. I recently had a Blue Baby run that was pretty good. The only thing I don't like about this character, first let me explain how he works. So, he works the same as Blue Baby. Basically, you can only have blue hearts, but instead of starting out with poop, he basically can't hold bombs. Instead, he holds like different poops that do different stuff. So every time you shoot something, you have a chance to drop one, and you can hold a max of 9, I think. And you can also hold one that's useful and has a specific effect to use later, but otherwise you have to use them in the order that you get them. Certain like poops can be like bombs, or they can be like stone poops you can throw to get more damage, to get high damage on something, or they can be gas poops that do poison, or fire poops that can explode the gas poops if you're running out of bombs, or they could just leave a trail of creep on the floor that makes it slippery, or they could just like poison enemies in an area, but those ones are the most useless. The thing I don't like about this character is kind of the same thing I don't like about Tainted Cain. You're just constantly having to keep track of something, and that's just not really that fun. And I don't think that the poops add like so much to the game to where I'd prefer it over the bombs, like just having bombs. Like, it is fun to sometimes get like a hallowed ground or something and to get high damage for a few seconds off of that before it inevitably breaks, but all in all, I think he's just a kind of fun character. He's alright. I think that I would probably put him above Bethany in terms of how funny. No, not, I don't know. Let me think for a second, because I really just don't know how I feel about this character. Let me pause this real quick and think. Alright, after pondering my decision a bit, I've been looking at my tier list, and I've decided to move Bethany to behind Cain in the good tier, because after further consideration, I think that she's less fun than them. But also, I'm going to put Tainted Blue Baby right below Bethany at the bottom of the good tier, because I think he's alright, but keeping track of the poops, as fun as they can be, most of the time it doesn't provide enough of a buff to really even care about keeping track of them, and it does make getting secret rooms a little bit more annoying, usually making you cycle through poops that would otherwise be useful just to get bombs to get a secret room. So he's just okay. He can be really fun, but it kind of just, the high points of him are alright, low points of him are just like, what the heck. So I'll just put him at the bottom of good tier. Next up, we have Tainted Eve. I know that Mr. Matman himself thinks that she's the best character in the game, and I won't deny that she starts out with pretty good item, the Serpentorium. How she works basically is, if you hold down the fire button, a little like meter runs up, and each time it reaches the top, it'll spawn a little blood clot, which takes 1/2 of one of your hearts. It targets red hearts first, so like if you have a soul heart, it'll take the red hearts first, but if you're out, it'll take soul hearts, whatever. And she has something called the Serpentorium, which sucks all of them back in and gives you your health back. The blood clots have a certain amount of health before they die, and they slowly drain health, but I don't think they can die unless they actually get hit. Like, they can drain down to 1 health, but I don't think they can die until they get hit, if I remember correctly. I don't remember if they updated her or not, because I remember that that's how she used to be in early Repentance, but I think they might have updated that now to where they can only die if they get hit. I don't quite remember. But the clots, basically, they do the same amount of damage that Eve does, which is super OP, but she kind of sucks early game because she also starts out with really bad stats. It's basically Tainted Magdalene if the risk-reward was worth it to play her. And she can be really fun, but the early game is pretty slow trucking along as this character, which can kind of make me not want to play the game anymore if my early game is super boring. But she is still a really fun character. So I'm going to put her right below Lilith in the good tier. Alright, next up we have Tainted Samson. Basically how Tainted Samson works, he starts out with 3 red hearts, and after a while of shooting or getting hit, both of them charge this meter. He goes into a rage where he basically gets the Forgotten's Bone, but he gets a really high damage up and a really high tier rate up. So you can just shred through enemies, and each enemy you kill adds like a second to this meter before it wears off and you go back to normal fighting again. This is really fun for like early floors, but when you get to the later floors and he goes into this, you're basically just like, well, I can't do anything until I wait for this to be over. If you're fighting a boss or something, because it's pretty annoying for later floor bosses because they shoot so many tiers that you can't really get in close without dying, and unlike the Forgotten, you don't have the soul to switch into. So he kind of just sucks, honestly. During later floors when I'm playing him in a really good run, every time he switches to his rage mode, I'm just like, until I wait for him to be over. Because of that, I think he's a bad character. I think that he goes below Samson. Below Samson. Like, if this is, like, how much fun a character is like baseline. Regular Samson can go like this, like good, bad, good, bad. He doesn't fluctuate that much. But with like Tainted Samson, he'll go like that. And because of that, I think he's a little bit worse. Because he's just, the downsides of this character are just, he's not bad, but the downsides of his character make him less fun. And this tier list is about how fun characters are, not how good characters are. So because of that, he goes at the bottom of the bad tier. Next up, we have Tainted Azazel. Basically how he works is, if I remember correctly, I think he just starts out with 3 black hearts again, just like regular Azazel. I forgot to mention that regular Azazel has flight. Tainted Azazel does not. He, instead of shooting a short-range brimstone, he shoots a long-range brimstone that barely does any damage, but he also starts out with this item. I don't remember what it's called, but basically if you double tap the shoot button, he'll let out a really, really short-range sneeze, which will basically, I don't remember what the effect is called, but I'm just going to call it Brimstone Infection, where an enemy will take like a damage multiplier from Brimstone to make it do much more damage, and it'll explode when it dies, and anything that gets hit by the explosion around it will also be infected with Brimstone Fever. Honestly, I don't like using it. I don't think it's a fun mechanic. I thought it was a cool gimmick when it first came out, but the excitement and the recency bias really wore off on this character. I rarely ever pick him. He's super boring in my opinion. Using the whole sneeze thing is really inconvenient, and it'll usually just end up getting me hit because skill issue, obviously. I suck ass. There's got to be the reason why I don't like this character, but his low damage just like, it's just not that good either. So, I mean, you can have pretty broken runs, especially with infinite range and brimstone or whatever, if you just get a few damage ups, but this whole sneeze mechanic thing, it's just not that fun in my opinion. It's just, and also, I don't like his design either. I think it's, you basically take Azazel, you turn him to a little bitch. That's what this guy looks like. So, and the fact that the sneeze is like a sneeze. It's like a little baby sneezing. Like, he just seems like a little bitch, honestly. And it makes me like him less. It makes me like him less. So, I wouldn't say he's bad necessarily, but I don't think he's super fun. I think he's less fun than Eve. So I'm going to put him in the middle of the bad tier. Let me just say, my favorite things about characters are usually when they have inherent traits that make them like fundamentally different from other characters to play. Not when it's just a character with stats and hearts and a few items slapped on it. I feel like those characters are usually less fun. So, just saying, because it usually affects the playstyle of the game. Because usually when you get to late game, no matter like what character you're playing, if you have certain items, you just win no matter what. So, in characters that have inherent traits that are fun are usually way more fun in my opinion. That being said, we are at Tainted Eden. Now, I literally have played this character once ever. So, and it was a long time ago. I probably should have played her once in preparation for this video, but I know what she does. Basically, it's the same thing as regular Eden. You start out with random stats, random health, random 2 items, whatever, but every single time you get hit, it re-rolls those 2 items. Not just those 2 items, it re-rolls every item that you have, like that you pick up throughout the whole run. So you're basically playing Tainted Lost on forgiveness but fuck you mode. So yes, getting hit's not a death sentence, but getting hit could also lead to immediately getting hit again because you re-roll into some really ass items. So because of that, I don't really like her. I mean, like, I don't remember which Binding of Isaac YouTuber really loved this character. I think it was another Matt playing Isaac or something, because you can re-roll your whole character into better character with, like, sack runes, and you can cheese that or whatever. I guess that's true, but then again, you get hit once, it's gone again. So unless you have the Holy Mantle or something, this character's just, in my opinion, you know, you can get some pretty broken stuff, but it's gone in an instant. You know what I mean? It's not a super fun experience in my opinion, but it can be. this character fluctuates so much. It's like having a super fun time and then your parents say it's time to do homework or something, and then in the middle of your homework you get to start doing whatever you want again, and then it's time to do homework again. It's kind of what playing this character is like, because either you're having a super fun blast you're having a blast on a super broken build, and then it turns into a shit build, a broken build, shit build, broken build. Like, you're constantly just flip-flopping. So because of that, I don't think this character is like super fun, because I like to, build off of synergies that I currently have, not just throw everything to the wind to random chance. And also, I really literally have played this character once a while ago, so I don't think it's necessarily super fair. Take this rating of Tainted Eden with a grain of salt, but I'll just put her like at the bottom of decent, because she does seem like she can be fun, but I really just don't have enough experience, and I don't really know. So she goes to the bottom of decent tier. Next up, we have Tainted Lost. So this character can be really fun, but this basically takes all the unfun parts of Tainted Eden, and basically it's like the unfun parts of Tainted Eden on crack. Because once your run's over, it's over. You get hit once you die with the Tainted Lost. Basically how the Tainted Lost works is he's literally just the Lost, but with no Holy Mantle. You start out with a Holy card, which gives you a Holy Mantle effect. And another thing is, all the items that are useless for the Lost, like health ups and whatnot, just don't show up for Tainted Lost. And I'm pretty sure that the Tainted Lost has like a 30% chance of getting an item with a higher quality than what it would have been. So that's pretty useful, I guess. But it just sucks ass. Because, like, and another thing, I'm pretty sure that each card you pick up has like a certain percent chance of being a holy card, so you can replenish that one hit. But let's be honest, playing this character, it can be fun, but you're not playing this character with an intention of winning the game. But this isn't about how good characters are. This is about how fun characters are. And when I do play the Tainted Lost, I won't lie, I do have some fun, because it's pretty easy to get broken ass builds with him because of how much your item qualities can fluctuate. You can get really good stuff. So I'll say that in terms of how fun he is, I'll put him at the top of very good. Because he is really fun to play, but it does suck when you die having a good run. But let's be honest, it's inevitable. Don't play Tainted Lost if you don't want your run to be cut short. Like, go into it expecting to lose, but having a fun time regardless. Because, I mean, if you don't do that, you're basically just setting yourself up for disappointment. And when you do go into it with that perspective, I think the Tainted Lost is a fun character to play. Because getting some broken-ass runs is pretty nice. Free Devil Deals is nice. Extra higher quality items is nice. Plus, maybe don't use your holy card for the first floor. Check the treasure. Maybe it'll be a blank card. Who knows? I mean, if it's not a blank card first floor, obviously use it. But if not, you never know. So, he goes at the top of very good. Next up, we have Tainted Lilith. And I was really excited when this character came out, because we were finally getting another melee character in the game. And I played her a shit ton for like 3 weeks straight, and I got a shit ton of hard mode completion marks on her. And because of that, I kind of burned out on the character, but she is still fun. I just don't find the melee gimmick of her super fun anymore. Just having to constantly mash the button is just... It's just kind of not that fun for me anymore. But it's just because I'm worn out on the character, not because it's not a fun character. Like, if I took myself back to those rose-tinted, rosy-cheeked days of being a young little chap when Tainted Lilith first came out, I would say that she was one of my top 3 favorites. But now she's gone down a little bit in the ranks for me. I would say that she's still really fun, but nowhere near top tier. She's just in the middle of the very good tier. She's really fun. How she works, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, she has the same health as regular Lilith, but what she does is she shoots out a demon baby out of her stomach that does contact damage, and it does pretty high damage too, so it's basically just a melee. And then if you hold down the button, he'll stay out and he'll auto fire near the enemy closest to him, and she does okay damage with her tier 8. It's just, for some of the fights, you see, here's the thing I don't really like a bunch about Tainted Lilith, whenever you get some good items and your tier rate gets up or whatever, you want to use the tiers more often, but you're having to hold out the Demon Baby, and once you do that, it kind of, why am I even playing Tainted Lilith at this point? You know what I mean? Because like, you're not really using the melee attack that much anymore if you have a really high tier rate. So I mean, it's still fun. She's still a fun character to play. She makes the early floors easier, and she's not a detriment. Like, she doesn't have any debuffs that make her worse. She's just balanced. So I'm fine with that. She just basically makes early game a little bit easier for you if you're bad, which I used to be, which is why she was one of my favorites. So because of that, she goes in the middle very good. Next up, we have the most fun character in the game, in my opinion, my boy, Tainted Keeper. Okay, so how Tainted Keeper works is he has coins for health just like the regular Keeper, but unlike the regular Keeper, you cannot go to 3 health if you get a health up. Your max health is 2 forever. And here's how Tainted Keeper works also. He shoots 4 tiers at a time instead of 3 like regular Keeper, so tiers up are really good for him. And every kill that he gets, the enemy drops a coin that slowly fades away, so you have to like run up and grab him. And you have to buy every single item. With regular Keeper, I forgot to mention this, but you can buy devil items, which makes him pretty fun to play. Sometimes you're getting begged. Actually, you know what? Because of that, I'm gonna move Keeper up to the bottom very good, because buying devil items is pretty fun. But Tainted Keeper, you have to buy everything, but it doesn't even matter. Because if you're not ass at the game, you can literally just rack up so much money so fast. And he just becomes like the most broken character ever. See, this is like playing The Lost, kind of. It's kind of like playing The Lost, because you're at a major health deficit, but you make up for it with better items when you're The Lost. With the Keeper, you're at a major health deficit, but you make up for it with a shit ton of items. Another thing with the Keeper is the shops have way more items in them than normal, so you have way more options. You can end up buying, like, seriously, when I'm playing Tainted Keeper, if I get lucky with the enemy spawns, which you usually do, because the chances of like a mulligan spawning and you explode it and you get like 5 coins from it, or 3 mulligans in a single room, it's not that uncommon, especially for first floors. So the chances of me like having 8 items by the 3rd floor, like by the end of the 2nd floor, like 8 items, not uncommon. Normally you'd only have like 4, maybe 6 items if you're really lucky by the end of that point. But with the Keeper, it just trivializes all of that. He's super goated. He's definitely my favorite character in the game, and he's going in the Masterpiece. I think that his low health provides enough of a challenge, and his really fast, quick, like, risky playstyle where you have to get in close to collect the coins. It's so much fun. Nothing beats the Tainted Keeper experience, in my opinion. By far the most fun character in the game, in my opinion. I pick him like almost every day when I play. So, if you wanted my personal opinion of the best character, it's Tainted Keeper. He provides the best challenge with the best rewards, and it's just always a blast playing him. Like, you never have a bad run as Tainted Keeper because you just rack up so many items. And those items are earned too. Like, you earn every single one of those items you rack up. So it never feels like you just broke the game for free like it does with Isaac or any of the other broken characters in this game. But you earned those items, and you're having a broken ass run, and you earned it. That feeling beats every other character, in my opinion. He's just so he going in the Masterpiece tier, and he's probably going to be the only character in the Masterpiece tier. I'm just going to say that right now because he is goated. Next up, we have Tainted Apollyon. He's basically like Apollyon if he's a little bit more fun. So the exact same as Apollyon, but instead of the Void, he has an item called the Abyss, which instead of giving you stat ups when you consume something, it gives you a red locust, which flies back and forth between you and the enemy when you're shooting it, and it does a little bit of damage. You can rack them up and have a whole bunch of them by consuming shitty items and turning them into locusts. So you'll basically always have at least a decent run with Tainted Apollyon if you're like eating a bunch of items up. And because of that, I think he's alright. I mean, he's never really one of my first choices to play, but it's always a semi-fun time when I play him. Normally you don't really get anything super broken because sometimes you end up sacrificing future synergies on the item you thought was bad by turning it into a locust, and you're like, well, shit, now it doesn't synergize with this item, so I might as well just locust this one too, because it's not that great without each other. Which is fine. I mean, I'm more of a guy that likes to throw myself into the game, and whatever it wants to give me, I'll just take. You know what I mean? Like, let the game play the luck for me. You know what I mean? And I just work with what I've got. I don't really like to, say, no, fuck this. The game doesn't know what it's talking about. This item is not going to work for this run. I know what's best. I more like to be like, all right, game, you got a plan for me. I'm going to see how well I can work in it. And usually when I do that, I get really broken runs. But Tainted Apollyon, every now and then you'll get a whiz, a Bob's Brain, which I don't think Bob's Brain's the worst item, but I usually don't want it, depending on my build. There's something along that line, or eye drops, which you don't always want. Something like that, you just be like, you know what, I'm gonna turn it into a locust. Because of that, I think he's alright. Where should I put him though? I decided where I want to put Apollyon. I think that he's less fun than Magdalene, but more fun than Jacob and Esau, so he's going near the top of the decent tier. Alright, next up we have Tainted Forgotten. So, how this character works, he starts out with, it's like Blue Baby, you can only have soul hearts, black hearts, whatever. And you're basically playing as the soul from the regular Forgotten, and you throw around the Forgotten's body to deal damage. It's kind of hard to explain how it works, but basically you throw the Forgotten's body and he can swing the bone regularly or whatever. When you throw him, he does extra damage, but you can swing and you have to go pick him up and throw him again. You have to walk over to where he landed and throw him again. So for stationary bosses like Gertie, it's really good. I think he's a really fun character to play, but you gotta be in the mood to play him, definitely. But when you do, usually he's pretty fun. Being able to fly is nice. The way that you attack is really fun and unique, and I don't think it's worse or necessarily better than any of the other characters, because you do get a lot of damage up. You do get a lot of extra damage from the way that you attack. I feel like it's balanced. I feel like it's a fun character. So not really much to say about it. You also get flight, so flight is always nice. Because of all those things combined, I think it's an overall pretty fun character. I'll put him above Tainted Lilith. I think that the Tainted Forgotten's a little bit more fun than Tainted Lilith, but pretty fun character overall. Next up, we have Tainted Bethany. Basically, she's the opposite of regular Bethany, kind of. She can only have soul hearts, and red hearts contribute to her charge, unlike with regular Bethany. So, I forgot to mention this about soul heart characters, in case you didn't know it. Like, it's not like I had to mention it or something, because this video is more for Isaac fans anyway, but basically, if you're playing as a character who can only have soul hearts, I'm pretty sure that taking damage on a soul heart doesn't lessen your double deal chance, if I remember correctly, in the new Repentance update. So, she's a lot more likely to get devil deals, angel deals, whatever. She has an item called the Limigeddon, which is like a pseudo-active item, which means you just hold it in your left hand, active item right. Remember my analogy from earlier. And what it does is it gives you a free item, but it spawns it as a wisp around you too. And you get the effects of that item until it gets extinguished like a regular wisp would by a blocking projectiles or contact damage or whatever. Now, how most people play this, I've heard, I don't actually remember if this is true or not, but I've heard that using the Limigeddon in a certain room will give you items from that item rooms pool. My bad for speaking in such an inefficient way, but I never use this character like that. All I do is I just rack up hearts the whole run, and then I just burn them all on whatever final boss I'm doing. I think that's the most fun way to play her, because I'm already good at playing blue heart characters, so getting items slowly with the regular charges is basically just a buffed version of Blue Baby, which is always fun, and then you just basically get to have a free final boss, which is always nice. So she's a pretty fun character to play. I think that she's probably above Lilith, but below I think she's on the same level as the Tainted Forgotten. I wouldn't say she's more fun or less fun. I'm gonna put her behind the Tainted Forgotten, but just know I think they're equal. I think they're equal characters, equally fun.
Okay, my phone just died, so I'm gonna have to hold it like this so it can charge for the rest of the video, but we only have 2 characters left, so it's not gonna be that bad. Next up, we have Tainted Jacob, which is one of the least fun characters in my opinion, just because it's like the constant stress of playing the Tainted Lost, but a lot of the time you don't really feel like the death is your fault because Esau just comes out of nowhere. Basically, how Tainted Jacob works is he starts out with 3 red hearts, and then after a few seconds on every floor, the ghost of Esau will come out, and he follows you around, and every now and then he'll charge at you. And if he hits you, you turn into the Lost without the Holy Mantle. You do have the Holy Mantle, but you don't have the Holy Mantle for the room that you got hit in. So you're basically a one-hit kill, which it is useful if you need to fly around to grab something before you go to the next floor, but most of the time it sucks, because if Esau hits you again after that, then you die. So it really sucks that no matter how many hearts you get, you could just be neutered at any moment from an unlucky hit from Esau, which is where his pseudo-active item comes in, Anima Sola, which chains Esau to a certain place for, I think, maybe 10 seconds, maybe? I feel like that's a little bit longer, but it's about 10 seconds, I think, and then after it's up, he immediately charges towards you. Now, Esau isn't only a detriment because he can do a high amount of damage to a boss. He'll, one-hit kill certain early floor bosses or, 3-hit kill them. It really depends on which one you're fighting. So he can be useful, but his downsides majorly outweigh the upsides. I always find myself having a hard time dodging him just because of the way I dodge things in general. I'm never really in a good position to dodge Esau. So I don't really like playing him. He's one of the only characters I don't have any completion marks for. I may have completed Mom's Heart. Maybe. I don't actually remember, but don't get me wrong. I think his character mechanic is fun, but maybe it's just a skill issue, but I always die really early on with Tainted Jacob. No matter how many times I try to play him, I always just mess up once and then I just die as the ghost version of Jacob, just because I mess up once. For me, it feels like almost impossible to not get hit by Esau once, and then you're basically just you're one hit kill for that room, and usually that just ends up killing me. And I'm not gonna say he's not a fun character because of that, because it's the same thing with Tainted Lost. If you go into the run expecting it to just be super hard, and that's one thing, but Jacob doesn't have any the really good item guarantees like Tainted Lost does. So because of that, I think that he's probably below Apollyon in the bad tier. That's probably a good place for him. So just move that closer so you guys can see the whole tier list. Last but not least, we have Tainted Lazarus, which a lot of people don't like, but I think he's actually personally pretty fun. Basically how he works is... Okay, this may take a while to explain. So you start out as regular Lazarus, and anytime you beat a floor, you switch to Dead Lazarus. And regular Lazarus starts out with 3 red hearts. Tainted Lazarus, I'm pretty sure, starts out with... it might be 3 soul hearts, it might be 2. I just know he starts out with some soul hearts. He might start out with a red heart even. I don't actually fully remember. It's not really important how the character works though. He also has an item called Flip, where when you're in an item room, or a treasure room, or a devil room, or an angel room, I don't think this works for boss rooms, but any of those other item pools, you can press the flip button and you'll get an extra item. And you get to see what it is before you press it too. So if you want to synergize with a specific character, then yeah. And you basically get to play 2 runs at once with this character, and I think that's actually pretty fun. Because I'm a pretty good player, even with a shitty run, I'll usually be able to salvage it. And that means that, it also means that you'll be able to sort of salvage a bad run if you have a better one with your other Lazarus, Because, if you have a shit run with one of your Lazaruses, then you could just use the flip ability before you go into a boss, if you play strategically with him. I don't think he's the worst character. I don't think he's a super bad character like everyone says. I think his mechanic's actually really fun. I think that Tainted Lazarus is super underrated, and that he can be a lot of fun, because you're basically playing 2 Isaac games at once, and I love Isaac, so it's just double the fun. The downsides of Tainted Lazarus have never really, made me super annoyed like it does with other people. I think it's super fun and mechanic, so I'm gonna put him right under Tainted Lost. I think he's super underrated and he's really fun. So there we go. That's my final tier list of Isaac characters ranked by how fun they are. So Let me know if you disagree in the comments, because I guarantee almost everyone will, because I have a very unique taste in characters, but these are just my favorite. This is what I think's fun in Isaac. So let me know what you think. And let me know which characters you think are the most fun and least fun, because I know that my Tainted Lazarus take is going to get some hate. Anyway, look out for that. I'm going to do another Rick and Morty comic review because I just read the 2 compendiums, so look out for that because it's coming out soon. See ya.